Okay, so let's start. We're live on YouTube right now. Can all the speakers hear me? Okay, cool. So hi everyone, welcome to our live webinar dedicated to the topic of the data behind COVID-19 and climate change. And before we start, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to introduce you to tonight's topic and our agenda a little bit more. So probably all of us know that coronavirus is the biggest economic and social threat of 2020. By now we're sure about it. But the climate change is actually the biggest threat of the century. Surprisingly, there are lots of connections between the two. And so as the lessons that can be learned and the opportunities that can be found. And tonight, Lubomila Jordanova, CEO and founder at Plan A, and our very own Elena Poughia, CEO at Data and Managing Director at Dataconomy, are getting together for a virtual fireside chat to discuss what data tells us about the environmental and economic lessons of the pandemic in relation to climate change. So we're looking forward to an interesting discussion, and you can also expect to understand the practical learnings you can apply to your business, and also what are the opportunities you can't afford to miss in 2020. So quickly about the agenda. We're going to start with Lubomila in a minute, basically. She's going to tell us a little bit more about the company she created, Plan A. And then we're going to directly jump to the fireside chat between Lubomila and Elena. And we will also allocate around 20 minutes for Q&A session with the audience. So please feel free, whoever is joining us through Zoom, feel free to ask your questions in Q&A. And we're also live streaming on YouTube, so you can ask your questions there as well. So if you're watching us from there, feel free. We're gonna look at all the questions, and Elena is going to kick off the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I would like to invite Lubomila to tell us a bit more about Plan A.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's actually a super special day for us to be joining you here. Today is Plan A's 3-year anniversary. So it's a day of a lot of work, just in general, but just a bit of a reflection. And it's a good moment to actually tell you what we've been doing over the last few years. Plan A was started 3 years ago in 2017, when definitely sustainability and climate change were not at the hype level as they were in 2019 and in the beginning of 2020, before COVID became the dominant discussion. We have, since we started, built quite a lot of things, and our aim and mission have always stayed the same. This is to help individuals and companies find actions, find ways in which they can fight climate change. The first thing that we have built is the first thing that we built was a donation platform in the fight against climate change that was built in 2017. Through this, we were able to donate close to 1 million euros to environmental organizations around the world. Then we moved on building an algorithm that predicts where and how climate change will hit the hardest. And after that, we are where today, what brings us today to the discussion. We have now developed significant expertise in understanding how companies are going to be affected by climate change and how we can help them kind of prepare for this. Our latest product that responds to these needs is a software that helps companies calculate, monitor, and reduce their emissions. This software is available on plana.earth. We already work with hundreds of companies from all around Europe. And if anyone from the audience is interested, feel free to reach out directly to me. I'm more than happy to tell you more about what we're doing. And kind of one of the things that I would like to finish on about Plan A is that we've always been a tech and science driven company, but we've always been a company with a big heart. And the reason for this is that actually fighting climate change is not about just finding the functional way to get out of the crisis, but more so to rethink the way you work and the way you use resources, the way you operate in a reality that has been dominated by optimization rather than by kind of finding your place in this natural equilibrium. So we, alongside of building all these technologies for fighting climate change, we've also been really strong in kind of building communities. And so far we have close to 100,000 people in our community. These are people that visit our website on a monthly basis. They're connected through our academy. This is the place where we disseminate scientific knowledge. They're connected through our events that normally are offline, but unfortunately now, due to the COVID setup, online, which is also a good opportunity to connect to new people. And these events vary between Meet the Scientist sessions up to cleanups, up to a lot of kind of, I would say positivity-filled experiences that allow for people to connect to climate change on a more personal level. So this is about Plan A. I'm super happy with what we've achieved for these 3 years. And this is my opportunity to say how much I love my team and how grateful I am for the support that they've given since day one. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a discussion with Elena, a really challenging and exciting partner in crime.
Thank you, Lubomila. First of all, congratulations on the 3-year anniversary. And yeah, I mean, it's great to share this day with you and to see you evolve personally, but also professionally. I'm super proud and happy to see like how Plan A has created what you guys have created, and how you've put, as you mentioned already, like when you started, the sustainability topic was not in the focal point. And I think even now I've seen a lot of memes going around. I don't know if you've seen them about like the reaction of people basically when it comes to COVID-19 compared to sustainability. Like if we were actually as alerted with sustainability as we are with COVID-19, perhaps other things would not have continued. And on that note, I would like to ask my very first question around what do you think could be the interconnectedness of how our globalized world facilitated the spread of COVID-19, and to what extent do you think that COVID-19 and the climate change are linked?
So COVID-19 is quite of a fascinating, moment of, I would say, reflection for our society, because, of course, first of all, it's interconnected with climate change, but it also is quite of an interesting reality check for all of us. We have never been kind of facing this kind of a disbalance at the same time all across the world. We've had world wars, we've had economic instability, we had financial crisis, but simultaneously being hit on a health level in a country and all around the world, and also economical level has not been reality that has been available to people for decades. And how these two topics are connected, how climate change and COVID-19 are connected. So for those of you that don't know, or you didn't follow the details of how COVID-19 came about, it came through a market that was selling wildlife in essentially in Wuhan in China, a province of China that is quite well known for quite heavy production, and also being able to get access to certain animals that not necessarily are what you would imagine would be sold at a market. We have entered places on this planet which are totally should not be reachable. They are places like deep jungles, places like access to deep wildlife that is really not where we should be putting our hands-on resources at. And having done that, and having gone through the process of even setting up a market for that, has allowed for us to be able to connect to viruses that are not normally going to affect humans. The second aspect is that I would say the human being today is totally different makeup in the way that we live, we eat, we have brought ourselves up. It's totally different than what a human being was in the past. We're not so resilient. Our health systems are a lot more reliant on antibiotics, on certain medicine that supports us being stable, but this also allows for the spread to happen. So yes, of course, there's a connectedness, and it's about living unsustainably and also entering spaces that we should be not entering on our planet.
Very good point. It is good to think about, like, basically how this has started and how it evolved and the interconnectedness of all of these topics. On one hand, I can't help but wonder. I mean, it's been a very tough time for all of us. We have to reinvent ourselves and think of other ways to connect. Like now, especially, we started using. You mentioned before we went live that we started using Zoom in things we didn't even think about would be possible. But this will be a way to do an event. I've been to like house parties, and I've been to like yeah, we even been together, right? I've downloaded like snap faces that you can use for Zoom. I mean, and so forth. Like you can get creative, basically. That's what I'm saying. But I think like I can't help but wonder that somehow this was also in a way meant to be like he's met, because we had to slow down. We were moving so fast, and we were traveling so much, and we were always at events. And I come as an, we have a community, and we do this big conference, and I would have to say I'm talking with other people that we go to events, and we are somehow thankful for this slowness. And I think, like, because of this pandemic, basically there's a lot of heavy transportation limitations, industries and businesses. And yes, that has a bad side effect, but on the other side, wouldn't you say that carbon emissions have dropped? Do you think that this could actually have a lasting effect and impact on the environment? Would this be the solution? Is that the way forward?
Uh, I like your point with regards to like the changes in lifestyle, and it's a moment for reflection. It definitely is not incredibly exciting to be staying at home and working from home. But I remember seeing this meme a few weeks ago, and I thought it was like a really respectful way of saying to people that we should stop complaining. It was like, you are asked to stay at home, and your grandparents were invited to go to war. When a crisis hits in. So please take your time to reflect on the opportunity that you've been given rather than complain. It's a benefit. It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, we have, of course, the reduction in emissions, but this is just, let's keep in mind that, pollution began to draw attention in the US, for example, in the mid-50s and early 70s, when Congress passed the Noise Control Act and the Clear Air Act and so on, the Water Act. And these were the moments when we actually started reflecting on environmental policy. But we were even polluting before that. There was a really beautiful article on Smithsonian. I don't know if anyone reads the Smithsonian magazine. I would encourage you to do that. It's really deep thinking content. And they were basically explaining that, there's been so many tests done in Greenland where scientists were able to like identify at ice cores that we have been polluting for thousands of years. It's not like, and this is not obviously only related to technology, it's also related to burning things. It's related to like how we just consume our planet. We're just kind of intrinsically built to be consuming, because we need to eat, we need to, from today's perspective, we make clothes and so on. It's really important to not mix up facts. We have not hit the jackpot by getting COVID-19, and essentially all of a sudden we need to just wait for another 2 months, and emission levels are going to be at this stage and the kind of pace the way we want them to. So let's just get back to normal, produce like usual, and so on. China reduced by 25%. It's for 3 months their monthly emission level output. But that doesn't speak about the years that China has been doing a lot of other things beforehand. So it's nice that we're seeing, that you can see what's happening in Delhi beyond 2 meters distance, which is images that came out a few days ago. And in many other places, you see this clarity of the air. But we have so much damage to deal with. And it's really important to not feel comfortable and confident that progress has been made because of COVID.
Yeah, very harsh truth and right on point. By the way, just so you know, the reason why I leave the space when you speak is because I know that way you will be the center of the on
Okay.
YouTube. If you want, I can also look into your eyes while we talk.
I
Um,
always prefer that.
okay, cool. I'll stay in the frame there. I'll stay in the frame. So basically, yes, I agree with you, and I'm with you. I think like it's wishful thinking to think that at least like what that 1 month could erase the whole history of irresponsibility and lack of attention to our livelihood. And I think that at least if anything, what I'm noticing is it has brought us more together. It has made us more real with each other. And I mean, I felt like that people connect in more deeper levels now because they see what's important and what we really need to value in life. And on that point, I see that also corporations and governments are starting a lot of social responsibility projects these days. So they're really trying to give back. Citizens are acting according to the social distancing measurements, and actually people are practicing things in solidarity. I mean, from our side, for example, like our first, as the natives, like our first reaction was to contribute with doing hackathons to find solutions against COVID-19. And I see that like coming from a lot of governments, from a EU level and so forth. And this is just one aspect from the tech side, from the tech community. Do you think that will this change in behavior last and build stronger climate action in the future? I mean, I know that even before COVID-19, we had a lot of movements in the last year that really sparked attention, like Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion. So there were a lot of activism around and hacktivism around climate change. But do you think that now that we are, let's say, more alert and more aware of the situation, that we will act accordingly?
Um, I have mixed feelings about the outcome of COVID-19 for society, because I think on a personal level, we should not forget the fact that a lot of people have been put in quite of a challenging situation. There's Kurzarbeit in Germany. There's people that have been fired. 1 in 10 people in the US become unemployed. US has had like hundreds of % increase in unemployment claims, support, financial support claims. It's kind of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. You have certain things to first think about before you start focusing on, supporting communities. I think we're really privileged to be in the position to be supporting each other and actually initiating these kinds of things. And it's amazing what you did, by the way, applauding you about this initiative, because it was really successful. And I love the feedback that I was seeing online. I think that the level of solidarity is just another validation that humans are awesome and humans are amazing. And we live on a planet that is built out of goodness. We just sometimes decide to focus on other things because of constant focus on potentially money gains and, profiteering by, unfair competition or something like that. But when you're in a survival mode, you actually switch on, I would say, some aspects of you that are related to tolerance, that are related to love, that are related to respect. And it's not to say that people are not respectful when normal days are happening, but it just, it switches on. Your community behavior and this prehistorical understanding of living in groups kicks back in. I think that we would see level of solidarity, but there was also like some loopholes for this solidarity. I think on a governmental level, there's the obvious question of like, are we giving up, our freedom and, our privacy for better measurements of what is the success of COVID? We have the examples of China that are quite scary, even though there's been an international acceptance of the success of, how well this was managed. And it was really phenomenal. Building a hospital for 1 million people in 7 days is something unheard of. I think people on a personal level, when normal days come back to come, I don't know when this happens, but one day they would be focusing on supporting their communities, but also facing their own adaptation process that could be about focusing on making more money and, finding a better setup economically.
Did I just unmute? Okay, there you go. Confused here with technology. Yeah, I agree with you. I think like I like how positive you review this. I guess like you can only do it if you're involved in projects of sustainability. Like to think that people are inherently kind and not the other way around, and that basically they would try to find goodness in everything. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm also positive about kindness. But yes, basically you touched upon a very interesting point regarding budget and how basically this sort of situation right now really affects us, everybody, financially. And on, first of all, of course, we're looking at it from a healthcare perspective and how we should all be healthy and stay healthy and help the people who are in a minority position when it comes to this, either because their immune system could be more easily undermined, or because they've got conditions and so forth, or because they are older. As we know, it affects more elderly people. But basically, with that in mind, that basically a lot of companies are experiencing strong financial damage because of COVID-19. Do you think, and again, go back to the truth, do you think there will be a budget for sustainable development and measures post-corona? Do you think that what we started, and especially thinking about the SDG goals and what we started in the last couple of years and with the 2030 goals, do you think that we could be able to continue that post-corona?
On a company level, I think what we've been, observing is that SMEs are definitely shifting their priorities, and we've had a few of our clients, not a few of our clients, but a few potential clients that basically decided to postpone for a bit further. What we're seeing, though, that is really positive is that really big corporates are actually pushing forward even more sustainability activities. So they are seeing an opportunity in this for them to position themselves as leaders. And I obviously applaud these activities, and I'm super happy about them because it shows that they see the correlations between things. They see the correlations between their revenue and being sustainable. How we go about it in terms of the software that we have built is that you actually, we look at cost savings, because the argument that we make is that by being sustainable, you actually save money. And I think it's really important for us to start like fighting against this potentially distorted understanding of what is sustainability, because we keep on saying like, oh, organic products are a lot more expensive, being vegan is super expensive, you have to invest in your sustainability means like actually putting capital expenditure. The truth is that a lot of the measures really, even short term, save you money. And being vegan is also about eating chickpeas and lentils. It's not about buying a fancy peanut butter that costs €7. So it really is about being like really understanding what the terms that we're discussing are. My assumption from what I'm seeing, and I think this is like, now it's prime time, so it really shows how companies are thinking, is like corporates are going to continue pushing. SMEs that understand the true value of sustainability are also going to, set aside not necessarily funds, but just time and resources to think about their own positioning in the space. And then for individuals, we'll see.
Very good point. Like pretty much like what they say, like being cheap is more expensive. Basically, it's a similar attitude. Essentially, like that in the end, like the long run, thinking in these terms would be more helpful for. And I think that companies are now seeing it more and more. And back to the question, like talking about COVID-19 and our flying habits and our our attitude towards right now. I mean, there's pretty much this whole change in the last month has really changed all of us and our behaviors. do you think that kind of behavior would last in the future? So essentially, like, our flying habits would change. I remember for a year, actually, not last year, but the year before, I made a pact with myself not to fly for like 8 months. It was difficult, but it was actually very rewarding. Like, I felt very good about myself for doing that. Mind you, then I went back into my extreme flying habits and like one flight a week or something like that, which is definitely very bad.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. But basically, do you think that essentially would we be able to even stop this? Do you think, actually, even to take this even further, do you think that flying is the number one thing that we should change in our behavior to actually change the whole our whole attitude in terms of sustainability?
So starting with question one, with regards to, what is the expectation of what's going to happen post-COVID in terms of traveling habits and flying especially. So there's two scenarios. On one hand, we have the possibility of people being, confined by four walls to decide to all of a sudden take every single Ryanair and EasyJet flight and basically just go on holidays on weekly basis, or like, going on weekends away all the time. There's also the second scenario where the economic limitations that potentially could be there for companies and individuals would also lead to people finding more, I would say, sustainable and environmentally friendly choices for entertaining themselves, or like finding ways to travel more locally and so on. On this planet, there's going to be a lot of people choosing version 1 and a lot of people choosing version 2 of the story. And I don't think scenario 1 excludes scenario 2. I think it's more which one is going to be statistically more visible. It is my feeling that at the end of the day, you cannot, for the 3 months that you didn't travel, or for the 4 months that you didn't travel, you cannot all of a sudden, be on a holiday every single day. So we're not going to be able to, thank God, even if we try hard, we're not going to be able to compensate for the emissions that have been saved from being emitted, from like the pollution that could have been done, from the waste that could have been done. But business as usual is going to kick in, and there's going to be definitely the wish to compensate for some lost time of like FaceTime. I'll give only one example, which is industry related. For example, we've been talking to a lot of pretty big corporate clients, and they were telling us that they have stopped hiring, not because they don't have the budgets to do so, but because they really want this personal kind of moment where they meet the person, they can shake their hand without having to disinfect their hand afterwards. And they can be, in the presence of these people to see if they fit on a more mindset level. And these are like normal things that I think us as humans that have never been just like facing each other on a 2D reality totally want. So I would say there's going to be some like compensation going on, but on a personal level, maybe not so much. With regards to your second question in terms of like, is flying the worst? What is the worst is that we still don't have in our minds often a clear definition of what is unsustainable. And what this means is that flying is bad, but also eating on day-to-day basis meat is also not great. Constantly buying stuff that is packaged in plastic is also not so great. On a company level, using your car to drive yourself by yourself to the office and, causing potentially traffic jams because 3 of your seats and 4 of your seats are not used. And this is true for every single other person in the cars, is also not great. So I think the worst thing is that we don't embed like the small sustainability habits in our lifestyle that we could with just behavior or changes that maybe are more favorable than others. In Plan A, we never tell anyone, hey, you need to stop eating avocado, you need to stop eating meat. You as a company need to stop using like printing. It's about hey, you need to reduce by X% your emissions, and these are the options where you can kind of pick and choose what fits you to do this within a short amount of time. And it's just about finding the right package that works for you. And the more people actually start thinking about this, the more effective we're going to be with implementing a more world level sustainability mindset, which I would say is missing a bit at the moment.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure like an important aspect of it. Like there's a stability mindset that we all should have. And I know like from talking with you in the past as well, how community is important, and how basically we should also, we should also prioritize like this collective consciousness when it comes to these things. And I think we are like used to think about like individuals versus community versus companies, and we all have basically our social responsibility in this to make this world, well, to be able to continue living in this world for future generations. And I know you're also working very closely with companies, and I know that's one of your priorities right now, to help companies, as you mentioned, become more sustainable for them, but also for the future and for everybody. So what could be like, as a second note, like some advice that you would give to corporations to actually become more environmentally responsible?
I think what's really, really important for, for the setup we have at the moment is to start thinking of sustainability also as a cost-saving, cost-cutting activity, because we unrightfully, I would say, treat sustainability as a luxury. I think sustainability is just the minimalistic, more resource mindful manner of existing. And my advice to companies would be to start small and to start at home. Start where you work, start where you produce, and think of the small changes that you can implement today, tomorrow, and the day after. Of course, if you have some problems with that, get in touch with Plan A. But it's kind of about, thinking also of the longer term effects. I think one of the best examples in terms of like, some of the clients that we have is that, I'm not going to name the company because it's not, we're not allowed to, but when we ask them like, why are you doing sustainability? Why are you taking these initiatives? Because it's a pretty big company with like tens of thousands of employees. They basically said, because we want to leave a legacy for the future generations, and we know that our brand is going to be around when these generations are, running the company. And when you hear this kind of mindset, it shows that, first of all, these are market leaders. These are people that know where, they know where to put their money, and they know what it takes to be a leader on the market. That means, being responsible. That means being respectful. That means being careful to your employees. And when you hear this from someone that is in such a big position, where they can easily say, oh, we're not regulatory required to be like perfect at sustainability, we're regulatory required to report on sustainability, then you actually understand that it's a lot bigger than you to do something that is sustainable. So I would say keep this mindset in mind and think of your company as the one that is going to be there for the next 20 to 50 years, because you want to build something that lasts that long. And then you're going to start seeing that sustainability all of a sudden becomes so important.
I think you just raised two important things here for me at least. Like on one hand is like, think beyond yourself. So think beyond like whether this affects you now and how this will affect your surrounding and the other people in the future. And I think that's something for sure to think about. And I also see sometimes that essentially when we're talking about regulation is a tool used for people who don't understand the lasting effect. So regulation is there to actually help put this into perspective when unless for like instead of sorry, some things are popping up on my screen. Instead of explaining, basically you are essentially just putting boundaries so that people can work with them. So thinking of your company, thinking of the lasting effect, thinking beyond yourself and more like on a collective perspective. How can companies take what steps could companies take to be better equipped to deal with challenges like the coronavirus in the future, and how actually can data help them to be better prepared?
Yeah, this is an amazing question. And, we obviously at Plan A believe that data is all of it. And I think the same applies to you, having built like such a massive community for data, not only experts, but also geeks and fans and like people that truly cherish factuality and being, precise. I think this challenge that we face at the moment is a really big lesson for us as a society to adopt a mind that is long-term thinking. We kind of adapted ourselves after the financial crisis. We definitely like became a bit more proof by, capital buffers that were requested by, central banks for their own banks, and by getting corporates to like have some more securities in their own bank accounts. But I think what is being proven at the moment is that, first of all, we're still not fully prepared for these kinds of shakes and, disbalances. Second of all, is that we're incredibly interdependent. There's a lot of questions that are being raised on an economical level about, like, is this interconnectedness good? For example, countries like the US at the moment, including a lot of European Union countries, France, Germany, starting to ask for health equipment to be actually kept within the boundaries of the country, so that, if there's some sort of a deficiency, if there's like a bit of a limited amount of equipment that you can access from somewhere far away, at least you have it at home. I think that, the lessons that we can learn here is, first of all, think durability. We have not thought enough about how future-proof our companies are. I know about pretty big companies across Europe that had to unfortunately fire a lot of their employees, and this shows that the financial stability of the company was reliant on 6-month to 9-month planning. I have a very conservative mind on this topic. I think that, you have to place your bets on things that actually bring back not only financial return, but also secure your future long term. The second lesson is with regards to, the first lesson is about basically building buffers financially. The second lesson, I think, is about thinking of scenarios. So I was speaking today to a client of ours, and the answer to what are you planning for your event, it's actually an event organizer. And he was saying basically, we have 3 scenarios at the moment, because, you kind of have to prepare yourself for a more unstable or super stable future. And then final, I would say, thing that for me is really important, and this is how I think in Plan A terms, is that you make sure that your team is your first priority. I know that this maybe sounds to someone that is only thinking of resources as assets related to like real estate or something like that. For me, the first thing that I did when COVID hit was that I just basically secured the team, that making sure that they are not concerned about their financial stability, about their position. Because these are people, if you go through a crisis as a company with these people, and they're staying with you and you're staying with them, they're going to be a lot more dedicated to actually working with you after that. And it's not a trick that you do with your team. It's actually a deep understanding that you have built kind of something that is really resilient and is going to be able to go through financial crisis, through a virus crisis, and also through any other challenge, and is obviously going to be a lot more willing to support you in maybe in a moment when you are the challenge. Maybe your health or something happens with it. So that's how I think about it. Financial stability and buffers, having scenario planning, so that you understand that what is the wartime zone perspective, and then the final one is thinking of your team first.
Basically, like in a way, I think like the conversation seems to evolve that essentially to be sustainable is also a lifestyle choice. It's a choice of how you should be behaving with other people, and it's sort of deciding your values and the way that you would like to, your culture and the way that you would like to interact with everybody. And I think like we're touching upon from a corporate perspective, but there's also, you know, when you mentioned before, also regulations and how policymakers potentially make decisions of how to arrange, how to pretty much form those regulations. I can't help but wonder that if we like how what are the first steps to think when we're talking about policymakers. How should they use the global solidarity that has been created to fight COVID-19, to actually tackle climate change, to actually resolve that issue?
Yeah. So I don't know if you followed, or any of the people from the audience followed what has happened on a European Union level. 17 countries now have confirmed their recommitment, their commitment again to the Green New Deal of Europe. These are countries that include Ireland, it includes like Malta. Malta was confirmed today, and there's a few other. And the idea is that they do not want for Europe to backtrack on its commitments to sustainability and to sustainable development and policies post-corona, post-COVID, because of economic recovery, or like whatever you would call it, like efforts to get the economy rebooted. And I think, you know, this is a really big statement coming from like ministers, coming from prime ministers, because this is a, you know, it shows that they're willing to commit themselves to the Paris agreements. They're willing to commit to their own responsibility within the whole deal, because the EU is, you know, it's kind of a collection of a lot of us, but it's not the like something that is divided, like it's different from, it's Malta and many other countries. So this is amazing. With regards to policies, I still think that there's going to be a lot of focus on economic recovery. And what's going to happen on a climate change level, I think, is going to be really driven by these institutions that have been there for the long term. You know, these institutions that have been focusing on the issue of climate change, and, you know, the next step of implementing these policies is just part of their work over the last 3 years. And I don't think there's going to be a significant reduction in budgets. This expectation comes from the fact that our new commissioner she's so dedicated, and I'm really like I'm really impressed with her communication with regards to climate change, because there's a level of determination that really, you know, gives you comfort, especially when you are on this side of the story where I am, where we definitely are concerned that climate changes might become secondary. What I would finish off with is kind of being the devil's advocate. I've been involved in a lot of discussions about policy on the European Union level, and also on a Germany level, as part of us being members of certain organizations, and also as part of me being invited to certain roundtables. And the problem is that there's still the two sides of the story. There's always like the two sides of the opinion. And when you listen to the automotive industry, that actually, again, news from today, which is really negative, is that the German government proposed that there is kind of a financial support for the automotive industry, which, you know, it's really important for Germany, but it's also quite of a challenge when you have to think about sustainability and so on. So I would say we still are having these like different flanks, like different two sides of the story. So policy implementation is still a big challenge. Policy discussions is going to be pushed forward. That's what my assumption and expectation would be.
Right, because we need to basically redefine the way we even do business, I guess, with this matters. And I think that's why, like, in a way, COVID-19 has been an opportunity for us to rethink how we can even do business. And I think, and yeah, on one hand, like, as you as you mentioned, basically there's on one hand, like as you mentioned, basically like there's a lot of discussion and like we can be positive about things, but at the same time, we can see from reactions that unfortunately, or from regulations moving forward, and unfortunately there's still a lot of room for improvement to change the way we work, and that's what I'm thinking right now when it comes to the communication, or the information being shared and how it's communicated when it comes to these topics, is that we've seen that for COVID-19, as soon as the World Health Organization declared this as a pandemic, there were extreme measures taken from government organizations, from corporations, from everybody globally to actually prevent this from spreading. And indeed, we have a lot of cases right now that we can see of potentially people being affected. We know that a lot of people have died. However, when it comes to comparing the people that are predicted and estimated by, again, the World Health Organization to die from air pollution, there's not even comparison. So there's 7 million people who could die every year because of air pollution.
Yeah.
So why do you think that are people taking COVID-19 more seriously than climate change? What do you think is the differentiation here in the mindset?
So think of climate change. When I ask you about climate change, what do you think? You think about so many different challenges that we need to address at the same time. It's waste management, it's air pollution that is correlated with, increasing climate change. It's not, the same thing. We need to differentiate that. You think about deforestation, you think about loss of habitat for wildlife, you think about loss of species. And these are so many challenges that we need to tackle at the same time in order for us to kind of stop the negative repercussions of climatic change. And when it comes to COVID, it's a simpler calculation: virus, infection, potential for death. And all of a sudden you have a level of scare and fear in people that can definitely be totally unmanageable. I mean, there was people going crazy buying toilet paper in the beginning. There was people, not only buying a lot of things, but there was just like a level of panic that was also fueled by media and by certain media. I don't want to generalize. So it's really easy to speak about COVID because it's one thing you're fighting. It's one battle that we're all fighting. And this is where the solidarity becomes a lot easier to comprehend, put together. I was a mentor at the Global Hack, which was an amazing effort by basically 20,000 people participated. It was with people like Sam Altman from Y Combinator, Brad Feld, like really famous people that were the patriots, the patrons of the initiative. And I was a mentor of the environment and economy track, and there were solutions that were tackling unsustainable consumptions. There were solutions that were tackling construction waste material. There were solutions that were tackling how to identify different types of waste so that you recycle better. And these are all challenges related to climate change. When it comes to COVID, it's, there was 3 tracks that were focused on how do we empower SMEs in this challenging moment? How do we actually address the issues of the healthcare industry? And how do we also help the government work better with society so that they kind of, mobilize people, they can organize them. And this shows you the different magnitude of the issue. COVID is able to affect us all at the same time really quickly, but thank God, and I'm so happy to know that also COVID is able to be, more people have recovered rather than people have died. We just, and climate change is just like, where do I start? So this is where, fighting climate change is a lot bigger of a battle than, climate change is not emissions. Climate change is unsustainable behavior. It's so many other things. And this is where the challenge comes on tackling it, long term and also effectively, because it allows for opinions, I would say, unfortunately.
I think it is time to take some Q&A from the audience. Thank you so much, Lubomila, for so far. I have one last question, but I will save it to the end because I think that's a good rounding question to ask. I see here there's 3 questions from the audience. So Helen asked, due to COVID-19 economic recession, would it be more difficult to secure financing for climate mitigation and adaptation projects?
So yes, I don't want to say yes. I don't want to say no. I definitely know that there's a lot of challenges ahead, and we're actually working on something at the moment to help these projects. So Helen, thank you for asking this question. Please feel free to reach out to me, and if you have this kind of a project, we might already be able to on the 4th of May be able to help you with ideas on how to.
I like the suspense here. The 4th of May, May the 4th.
I can't speak yet, but yeah, there's something that's cooking.
Good. Let us know so we can also spread the news. So anonymous attendee, someone who doesn't want to reveal themselves, ask this question. Do you think COVID-19 could end up being a wake-up call for people and governments regarding the importance of climate change? Dun, dun, dun.
Big one, Anonymous. The Anonymous is only thinking of the big questions. So my answer to this big question is I hope, I wish, and I do my best to make sure that this is the way people think about the issue, because there's interconnectedness between the 2 issues. There's also, a lot of unsustainable thinking that has led us to be at this point now of, not necessarily the virus spreading so much, but the virus existing altogether in our society at the moment. And it's not only about the wildlife market that caused us catching the virus, but it's also the whole chain of actions that were taken, the steps before the market even happened. Why does the market exist? Why is it even possible for us to have access to these animals? Why do we need to buy these animals? Why do we need to transport animals still? And it's still legal to transport rare animals all across the world. There's people that have lemurs as I was going to speak in German. There's people that have as pets lemurs and armadillos and stuff like that. So there's so many things that, if we start untangling the COVID issue, we're going to figure out that we're not only connected to climate change, but we're also connected deeply to an unsustainable lifestyle that we have chosen to have. Not you, Anonymous, not you, Elena, but many chains of events that have happened in the past. And I think we need to start having these uncomfortable conversations. There's been some movement on the wildlife policy. People in Beijing, or is it Beijing? One of the states of China basically approved 2 weeks ago a law that no more cats and dogs are going to be eaten. Starting point, good starting point. But yeah, I would say I hope so, but let's see.
And then the other question by Marta, she says, it looks like this pandemic offers an opportunity to redesign our social and economic systems. Do you think we'll be able to learn the lesson as a society on both communal and political levels?
Well, good question. That's a big one. I think as a society, we're going to learn a lot of lessons, and not only on a communal, but also on a business level, political, for sure. I think our politicians have somewhat, and in some have been able to see a society that is totally unfamiliar to them, a society that is organized by kind of potential spread of, they're organized by a concern, they're organized by a belief in, the need to be healthy. And this is like a human right that no one should ever be deprived from. On a communal level, I've always loved my community, and I think, Elena, you're the same. So we have not too much to learn, but more to I guess to see it in a more active way, to more communicate these levels of love and commitment that maybe we had left to be kind of self-explanatory. And then on a business level, I think, and I hope the lessons would be that, first of all, the things that I said, basically preparing yourself to be more durable and being more understanding of the importance of your employees, because honestly, like there's no I don't know, there's no bigger asset for a company than your amazing team, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to build anything.
Yes, agreed. I think, yeah, that's definitely something that we share as a passion. And I think that in general, if anything, that's what keeps us all together in our humanity. One last question here from the Zoom channel, then I'm moving to YouTube. There's more questions there, so maybe hopefully we'll have more time to answer them. So Sasha, hi Sasha, nice to see you here. What she's asking is main changes before and after. Some people say we go back to business as usual. Others say it will never be the same again.
I think we can never be the same again. Business as usual is not going to be possible. There's expectations that, well, yesterday Oktoberfest was cancelled. I mean, come on, this is this is something unheard of. There's so many events that have been cancelled, like concerts all over the world up until the end of the year. There's still no clarity if we're going to be able to go in public places in big groups until the end of the year. So business would definitely not be as usual. I would be thinking that business would be a lot more conservative in making choices that are too provocative. Messaging about success and messaging about like securing funding has been really negatively responded to over the last few months, I've noticed, because kind of we're in this together. And, you know, if all of a sudden you're like jubilous on the sideline while others are suffering, it just doesn't work. So I think business as usual is not going to be possible. And I hope and I truly believe that this is going to be the case. One of the main outcomes is going to be that we're going to go back to our own place, but in a more mindful manner, where we actually understand the core of our businesses. We understand kind of these obsolete aspects of our activities. I remember, Elena, you were one of the first people that posted on social media when COVID kept us home or started keeping us home, where you were like, now you understand which meetings had to be, which meetings had to be actually an email. And I think this is really powerful statement about, you know, just removing the obsolete aspects of your business and seeing what truly matters. And I think this is actually a good change. So business as usual maybe was not always the most optimal way of doing business.
Thank you, Lubomila. So I'm like, you know, if we were now in a live session, I would be like, I'm talking with control here. I'm trying to figure out our questions. So where are our questions from the YouTube guys? The people from Evgenia. I found them. Okay, is this the ones? Okay, the ones that you just sent me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So Katya Stefano asks on YouTube, which companies, industries do you believe that are going to survive and thrive in the after COVID-19 world?
Wow. This is, I love predicting the future. This is my specialty. Joke aside, an awesome question, Katya. So I think some of the industries that are going to be hit really hard, and there's already statistics about this, so I'm not predicting anything about this, is definitely the travel industry. So really big and not so big companies related to traveling have been significantly hit, because this is the kind of industry which is so reliant on the incremental investments that happen. You know, the flight here, the flight there, the train ride here, the booking that is maybe a bit more spontaneous than others, and you know, and this is not happening on a grand scale at the moment. So these 500 euros that could have been given for like startup flights that are going to a conference that got canceled are not happening now. So travel industry is really going to be, I think, long-term facing some challenges, even if people start traveling like crazy, because it's it's big number industry, like many user industry, but also quite high value when it comes to adding all the additives related to traveling, including hotels, including, the bookings related to maybe some people get picked up from the airport by a car, get a rent a car and so on. So travel and kind of, all of the travel and the travel related services would be really long-term, I think, face some negative repercussions. Another one that is really, I would say, challenge at the moment is the fashion industry. We've spoken to quite a few fashion founders, and also when you maybe don't have, the monthly check coming in, or it's like reduced, you don't start thinking about like renewing your wardrobe. And I know from a really good friend of ours from the Global Fashion Exchange, which is an incredibly influential US-based organization that focuses on sustainable fashion, that he has been talking extensively about, with fashion producers about how their supply chains have been disturbed. And think of supply chain of unsustainable, even sometimes sustainable producer. You get the packaging in one place, you get the t-shirt in another place, you get the cotton in a third place. And then finally, up until the point it gets through a logistics provider to the house of someone, there's so many steps that need to be taken. So they really have been hit really bad by this. And I would say the healthcare industry is definitely getting a revamp, and I think it's a positive one. So this is more on the kind of which are the industries that are kind of maybe benefit from this crisis. I know that a lot of healthcare startups got funding through the crisis, and this was awesome because I know that their solutions might have seemed a bit too exotic for a time when there was not that big of a challenge. But actually, they've been able to convince investors by the fact that, hey, look at what's happening at the moment. This shows that we're going to face even more crises like these. And the climate change one is one that is also going to be related to healthcare. And another industry that has been definitely been benefiting is, like, we know about Zoom, we know about all these like online communication tools that have seen a level of demand that is unseen. So these are kind of the four industries I think need to be highlighted because they definitely stand out in the COVID crisis as those that are benefiting and also definitely being hit hard from them.
Because we like talking in memes, I would say that there's like a meme showing like a Zoom because we are also on Zoom, like a Zoom employee like trying to like maneuver all the new clients they now have. But yeah, so thank you very much, Katya, for this question. There's more questions. So Victoria Nicole Boyechkeva asks, hi, could you share how we can still talk convincing about sustainable development and its importance while we're all busy thinking about the current crisis and its solution?
I mentioned this earlier with regards to cost savings and sustainability. We need to change the paradigm about how we think about sustainability. One of the things that I encourage all of you to go on is on the Planning Academy. We have an awesome article that gives you tips on how you can convince your CEO to start focusing on sustainability as a company. And one of the main drivers of sustainable development is the long-term thinking society. This crisis is a really good a representation of how potentially we were a bit too short-term thinking in terms of how our healthcare systems were prepared for that level of instability. It was also a validation that we are not necessarily financially prepared to respond to to that much financial instability or like cut in revenue as companies. There's also the aspect that customers and employees, regardless of where, if they still work for another month from home, they're going to get back to your office. And if they are sustainable, which we see a lot, they're going to be still demanding that there's a recycling scheme in your office. They're going to be still demanding that, your customers are going to prefer buying something that is actually made from a sustainable packaging if they have this mindset. And there's numerous studies that prove that customers prefer sustainability, especially in countries like Germany, France, the Scandinavian countries, and even more so now picking up all across Europe. So thinking of your revenue and actually learning how to connect it to sustainability is super important, and it's actually going to position companies at being the front runners of the sustainability competition and also the, I would say, market competition. So this is the way I would argue for your company, Victoria, adopting ways in which it can be the beneficiary and also a sustainable player.
Thank you, Lubomila. Thinking and being actually ahead of the curve, before or after flattening the curve. So Victoria Amazonica says, thank you, Lubomila, for sharing your thoughts, truly inspiring. And then adds the question, what role do you believe that the businesses play in educating their employers and customers when it comes to these minimal sustainable habits?
So what role, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. What role do you believe the businesses play in educating their employers, I guess employees, and customers when it comes to these minimal sustainable habits?
I would actually say that there's the opposite, the opposite setup that exists out there in the economy at the moment. Employees and customers, because they are in the position to make these incremental choices and changes to their behavior. Maybe they switch from toothpaste that is made in plastic packaging to a toothpaste that is actually in tablets, or as employees, they are the ones that initiate the introduction of a cycle to work scheme or something like that. This is, we're seeing it all the time with companies that come to us because they say, hey, there's been like a massive movement that has been created in our company and we need to respond to it. So I would say the job of the employees is to know how to communicate with the employers that, there's benefits from being sustainable. And this is basically going back to the question that we just answered. And when it comes to consumers teach companies with the choices that they make in the shop. So once you go to a supermarket and you pick up this bottle versus the plastic one to then have something that lasts for you, I have this bottle for 5 years now. You are, supporting this company rather than a company that is constantly packaging water that you can also get from the tap in many countries in Europe. We're lucky like that. And you're getting it also from your own household. So I would say, think of what is at the moment hitting your bottom line as a company to understand who's your customer. If you notice, if you want to test if your customer is the sustainable one, just introduce a sustainable focused product without greenwashing, because we don't support greenwashing. Something that truly is sustainable, don't just put it in a green package. And see how your revenue changes, because there was an amazing initiative by the EU, and I encourage anyone to look up on Euronews. There was a report about it. That basically the EU gave as an experiment funding to companies that didn't have up until that point any sustainable products in their product line. They gave them funding and they said, this funding can only go for you to release a sustainable product. And all of a sudden, all of these companies saw how within like 6 months, this sustainable product ate out 25% of their revenue. All of a sudden, this new product was contributing with 25% of their revenue stream. And, that's what I would say as an experiment on the consumer side. On the employee side, I would start by, putting the facts out there. If you're on the employee side and your employer doesn't believe in sustainability, show her how much waste you're making a month, because this is always like a shocking, sight to have. If you're on the employer side and you need to convince your employees, just get Planning involved, and then it's really easy to get it done, because basically we have embedded everything in the software. But if you don't want to use plan A, you just basically like sit down your employees and understand what their ambitions on a personal level are in terms of, growth, and see how connected your employees are to one another. Sustainability is the best way to connect the employees to one another.
A very good point. I think like we need to increasingly work with people that share our values and work in a way that really represents us without, as you mentioned, greenwashing. And I do think that it's important to get Plan A involved if it comes to a company level, and also align with the employees' values on a personal level as well. Last question, if that's okay with you. I know we're running over time, but I think that it's nice to have this dialogue with the community, and I think we're both like really big supporters of the community. So one last question here is by Sankalp Shrivastava. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Sankalp. So he says, and I think it's a he, supply chain transparency is essential to sustainability. How should companies go about becoming more transparent? How to tackle the opaque supply chain and make it available to consumers?
So we actually help companies with their supply chains already. And how this works is that there's like product CO2 emission analysis, which can be done. And obviously, when you do this analysis, you need to understand where the product comes from. And this adds a level of sustainability, this adds a level of transparency to the supply chain for the company itself, and then they decide how they can communicate it. There's some pretty awesome companies that do on an industry level work. Circular.fashion is one about sustainability in the fashion industry. There is one that is a friend of ours, and I forgot the name of the company. So Nicholas, they got yesterday 3 million funding. So I will come back to this in a second. What they do is they use blockchain to analyze the supply chains of, in particular, rare earth metals. So like this would be diamonds. This would be like, diamonds that are used also for production. As you know, diamond is the most durable natural material. So there's another company like that. And if they want to start communicating it, I would say, first of all, dive deep into the facts before you start communicating anything, because you are prone to be judged for greenwashing. If you really don't understand that, yeah, okay, you source your packaging locally, but then you produce in the same factory as some fast fashion company, maybe, there's some things that need to be calibrated first before you can claim anything. So yeah, make sure it doesn't backlash to you. But I would say, depending on the industry where you are, look at these tools that exist, get in touch with Plan A, and also think of all the aspects that contribute to your product's existence. Because sometimes what we've seen in companies when they try to do it by themselves, and this is not advisable, but it's also an option if you want to start first testing how to collect the data yourself, is to make sure you look at logistics, you look at the source of the product. So like, it's not only about the product at the moment when you actually got it from someone that is a wholesale seller of organic cotton. You need to understand, where does this organic cotton come from? What are the conditions in which the workers in this field that produces this cotton are? And also, like, think of the last step, even like waste management of your product and of your facility. This is where you can speak about supply chain, because this shows that it's not just about like A to B movement. It's about what were the different treatments along the process, not only to the planet, but also to humans.
Great ending.
Yeah, this is a bit more technical than the passionate motivational speech that I love to give, but
still very important. So I think on that note, and if there's no more questions from the audience, we can wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Lubomila, for being here with us and for sharing your thoughts. I really hope that when we move forward to the next chapter after COVID-19, we will act the same way that we've been acting about COVID-19 with the climate crisis, because I think it's highly important. And please, looking forward to listen from you, like anything that you've been working on, and looking forward to hear about what will be released on May the 4th. Till then, have a good week and see you around. I would like also to mention here, I know you're doing another webinar you mentioned tomorrow already, right? And it's related to the EU versus virus as well, hackathon. So we are also participating in as partners and helping out there, and would love to support that. And whoever here in the audience would like to participate there, let us know. There's a lot of ways that you can still be involved. It's running this weekend, and it's a very good way if you're building something that could potentially be climate sustainable, environmentally sustainable, but also helping with COVID-19. That could be a good way to put it forward and potentially getting some money. Yes, and tomorrow Lubomila is giving the webinar as well there. What time is your webinar?
My webinar is going to be at 5:30 Central Eastern Time. So this is like 6:30. 5:30 CET. I'm not good with the calculations of time zones. If anyone else is listening from other places. And maybe something to add, because I think it's really good you mentioned EU versus COVID. This is an initiative that is set out by the European Union, and it kind of is the concluding of a lot of event that is going to be kind of supporting all the solutions that came out of these crisis times, to showcase them, but also to get them to be used, to get them to get funding. So if anyone kind of has some spare time on their hands and they want to support the community with kind of continuously fighting climate change and COVID-19, I'm going to be speaking about climate change again, obviously, but just join, and we're going to share the links afterwards.
Cool, nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, have a good evening and see you around.
Thank you so much, Elena.